Can you tell us about, there's probably other federal customers that have a system like AWIPS. Can you tell us about the LILT API integration with AWIPS and how you set that up and what kind of efficiencies that brings for the translators at San Juan?
Our system is isolated in that it's the system itself doesn't have access to the internet. So we do have a way that we can communicate, but we have to make sure that all the security, being government, being a high security system, there's certain guidelines that we have to follow. That added to the challenge of how can we make this work. You have to have an understanding of how our system works, and then how get a crash course on the documentation on how little systems work and how to read the documentation for the API, which is very helpful. And I just started using my knowledge in talking to the system, because we don't have this one particular machine that we use to communicate to the internet doesn't have any graphical interface. So that was a challenge because we couldn't use any graphical tools to make any of this work. Although I appreciated the documentation that LILT provided for the API, I'm sure you all didn't expect for it to be used manually to actually just grab bits and pieces and kind of making it work. I found it to be pretty powerful because you could make it do things that perhaps when you use a graphical system, you're kind of constrained as to how the graphical interface is designed. But when you're working with API calls, you can do whatever you want. You can do things that the graphical user interface may not be able to do for you because it just didn't think about that workflow. So it really opened up the ability for us to do things automated. So it was actually cool to see some features being added that could make our workflow easier. I think the APIs really was what made this whole project kind of flow the way it did.